Thus far, no malfunctions. That's the best experience I've ever had with ProMag up to date. And malfunction. Thus far, I've managed to get one round consecutively out of the straight 40. Still at one round. That feels like I had a dead trigger. Oh, no. I do now. Straight 40. Damn it, it looks good. I wanted it to work. Let's see what happens here. Alright. They're 147 grain hollow points. We'll see how they function. And there's a malfunction. Hey there, it's Matt with 2A Cops. I'm out here at the range today with my Springfield Kuna. This gun has been out for just a little over a year now, about a year and a month that it's been released to the public. I probably have upwards of 5,000 rounds to this gun. I did a release video on this thing when it first launched. I had the gun for about a month prior to release. At the time of release, I had a ton of rounds through it, and the only malfunctions I had experienced with this gun were all magazine related. The one detractor this gun has for a lot of people is the fact that it has proprietary mags. At the time that I did my original review, the only mags that were available for it were factory Springfield Armory mags. These are a 30 round polymer mag, translucent body, metal feed lips up top, or metal reinforcement in the top of the magazine. The early mags, which I have, I think 7 of, do have an issue when they get really dirty with carbon buildup. When you're running a gun suppressed, this gun has been suppressed almost its entire life. Speaking of suppressors, currently this gun is wearing an Exigent Defense Rico 309. Brand new can, it's been out for a couple weeks now. Really impressed with this can. So, it's going to live on that gun. Anyway, that's regardless of that. I don't remember how many months after the gun came out, Springfield silently released a Gen 2 mag that had a longer redesigned follower and a stiffer spring. So the new Gen 2 mag from Springfield seems to have resolved all those issues that people were encountering with the first gen mags. Currently, up until about a week ago, the only mags that were available for this gun, for the Kuna, were Springfield factory magazines. Just recently, not sure exactly when, ProMag released 4 new magazines for the Kuna. I'm not trying to bash the company. I have never had good luck with ProMag magazines. Every ProMag mag I've ever purchased for any gun, doesn't matter what kind of gun, has had feeding issues. But since there's no other mags available for this thing yet, I figured I'd give it a shot, so that way you don't have to roll the dice and spend your own money. So what are the 4 mags that they released? Well, they released a 30 round mag, which is literally, actually it's a tad longer than the factory 30 round mag, and it saves you about $3 per magazine. If you're gonna go for 30 rounders, I would just stick with the factory ones, but I'm still gonna run it, see how it does. They released a 40 round curved mag, so same as the 30 rounder, they just added some length to it, and you can get an extra 10 rounds. So who doesn't want more rounds? Then they released a 40 round straight stick mag. This thing has got UMP vibes all over it. So definitely had to snag one of those. I hope these things feed reliably. And then, unfortunately, I have zero faith that this 50 round drum mag is actually going to function. I've used this drum mag for the CZ Scorpion. The only difference is they changed this top portion where it goes into the magazine. They use the same drum body, and they have a ton of different versions of this magazine. So I've used 2 different samples of the CZ Scorpion version of this 50 round drum mag, and neither of those have functioned reliably. So I'm going to try it. I have zero faith this will actually work. We will find out. This could turn into one giant big blooper reel of malfunctions. I'm not hoping that that happens, but in my experience with ProMags in the past, I'm kind of expecting that. I will be the first one to praise these if they function reliably, especially that 40 round stick. Again, so early impressions here, just pushing on this follower, it tilts very, very easily. And it's on the front end that it tilts. So I'm not sure how well that's going to do, especially in the straight mag. The straight mags tend to feed a little bit less reliably than the curved mags. So what am I going to be shooting? I've got a whole bunch of 124 grain CCI Blazer brass. I have a whole bunch of, what is this? Patriot Sports. This is STV 9mm 124 grain NATO stuff. I have a couple of boxes of Freedom 124 grain. I have several boxes of Winchester 147 grain jacketed hollow points. And then I have one box that I'm going to split up between these mags of, this is 150 grain S&B subsonics. So the 147s will be close to subsonic, so they'll sound better coming out of the can. These S&Bs are subsonic, and that gun is stupidly quiet with that can on it and shooting subs. Enough talking, it's time to go start stuffing rounds into magazines and see if they come back out. All right, here we go. Start with a 30. I will say this, one thing before I get going, before what my potential only positive disappears. These insert into the mag well and come out easier than the factory Springfield mags. So I do like that. First round chambered. My optic is a little bright. Find the happy medium. There we go. All right, one down. That was the 30. Here's the 40. All right. My can's getting a little warm. Thus far, no malfunctions. That's the best experience I've ever had with ProMag up to date. And malfunction. That's a live round. So, first round out, worked. Jesus. That was probably my fault. I think I dropped the mag. Alright. Thus far, I've managed to get one round consecutively out of the straight 40. Still at one round. All right, so the first 6-8 rounds, I encountered malfunctions every other round. Once I got down to 32-ish, it functioned. Now for the drum. We're off to a good start. Okay, that is to be expected. There is no last round bolt hold open in this magazine. So the drum mag, 50 round drum mag, functioned flawlessly. It's a pain in the ass to load, but no malfunctions. The straight stick 40, thus far, garbage. Which sucks because it's a good looking mag. Zero malfunctions with the curved 30 or 40 so far. Alright, we are 30 rounder, second go. Free falls, no function issues. That feels like I had a dead trigger. Oh, no. I do now. Alright. This is the 40 rounder, curved 40 rounder. I don't know if you can see in there. I don't know if this one will pick it up. I've got a round totally sideways in there. Come on, camera. Should be able to see that. Yeah, there it is. So when I was shooting the straight stick, the rounds were not nosing up like they're supposed to get up into the feed ramp. They were going straight forward into the block in there. Alright, it was just a round that somehow got sideways in there. Okay, curved stick, one malfunction. Are we ready for the, I should say curved 40, one malfunction. Are we ready to go back to the straight 40? Damn it, it looks good. I wanted it to work. Let's see what happens here. Alright, I'm going to get this on camera so you can see exactly what it's doing. If you look down in there, you can see the round is just going straight forward into the rear trunnion inside this receiver. It is not nosing up like it's supposed to. Now, if this does what it did the other day, let me make sure I got this on camera. So I release a little pressure from the bolt. The round last time nosed up, came out, and it went in. So that's what it did like the first 5 or 6 rounds the first time I used this straight stick. Before I started shooting, I was talking about how the follower in this was tilting really easy. That's exactly what's going on here. It doesn't have enough pressure or anti-tilt in it to raise the round evenly. So what's happening is the round is coming up ass first, and then when it's trying to push it out of the mag, it's hitting that trunnion and not hitting the feed ramps. All right, let's see what happens again. Same exact thing. So let me loosen up a little. Right back in. All right, fewer malfunctions that time. Less than ideal. Definitely less than ideal. Let's see what happens on the 50. It functioned flawlessly the first time through. It's functioned flawlessly so far. So out of 4 magazines, 2 of them are malfunctioning. And that's getting warm, so it's going to cool off while I go load more mags. Alright, so 2 go-throughs for each mag so far. The only 2 that have been 100% reliable for 2 cycles of the magazine have been the 30 rounder and the 50 round drum, despite my expecting the 50 round drum to fail dramatically. It has actually functioned fine. So far, all the ammo that I have shot through this has been 124 grain, whether it was STV Scorpio or CCI Blazer Brass. I have, oh, I take it back, and also Federal Munitions 124 grain as well. I did just throw the top 10 rounds in this magazine are, in the drum mag here, are 115 grain MagTech steel case. So, found that in the bottom of my ammo can, figured I'd try it and see how it feeds, if it does. Round 3. That 30 rounder is working good. No issues. Let's go the curved 40, which has had one malfunction thus far. Get away from me, fly. Doing okay there. No malfunctions that time. The straight 40 has been extremely problematic. Let's see what happens here. Alright, that's the first time through that this one has functioned without an issue. Do magazines have to break in? I've never had a magazine not function out of the box and slowly get better. Alright, 50 round drum. First 10 rounds are 115 grain steel case MagTech, and then after that it's 124 Blazer Brass. Thus far, the drum has been flawless, as has the 30. Let's start trying some different ammo now. Throw some 147s in these. This is 147 grain Winchester defensive, and it first round out of it did not load. Stuck on the feed ramp. Try this again. So these are hollow points. These are defensive rounds. They're not SXTs or Rangers, right? It's Winchester defensive, so it's a pretty decent sized hollow point. That time it loaded. They're 147 grain hollow points. We'll see how they function. And there's a malfunction. So the camera, this camera picks up this better because of the lighting angle. It is sideways in there, like it's not even coming out of the mag properly. And these are just falling out of the magazine. I think the heavier projectile might be causing some problems for the spring and follower. And this is not a fully loaded mag. This is 15 rounds. It's half a magazine. Again, not coming out of the mag. You can see it's not even lifting the front of the follower enough. The nose of the round, this camera should probably pick this up. The nose of the round is nosed into the magazine. So the follower and the spring are not lifting the projectiles enough to clear that. I would definitely recommend against running these with any kind of hollow point. The FMJs were working because they don't have that same lip on the front of the round. I've never had an issue running hollow points out of a factory mag. We'll keep going. Well, loaded that time. And again, this one's all jacked up in there sideways. This camera, because you can see in there, It is sideways in the top of the mag with the nose stuffed way up into the bolt carrier, or the bolt. You know, I'm done with the 30. It is not working. Why are you going to put that back in there, Matt? I don't suspect the 40 is going to do any better, the 40 curved, because it's the same design, just longer. We'll see what happens here. Shockingly, the 40 did fine. Spring is different. Maybe that's why. Let's see how the 40 straight does. This one should not have that same problem, because if you look at the front of the mag, you can clearly see the whole front of that round. So it is not going to get stuck on a part of the magazine. So this one I'm suspecting will probably do okay. Yep, that one did okay. The drum, it's close. Seemed to work. All right. The 30 has now malfunctioned. Ironically, the one magazine that I swore was not going to work has been 100% reliable. That's this 50 round drum. Every other one of these magazines has failed thus far, and I've only used them 4 times each. Not good. Now I currently have loaded in these 150 grain subsonics from S&B. Because I am having a hard time getting this stuff, I only put in 10 rounds per mag. That was not the gun's fault. That was my dumb ass having my hand in front of the charging handle. So let's make sure we are in battery. All right, let's see what happens here. Let's see how quiet these are. Let me stop shooting on steel. Ooh. All right, failure to lock open. Haven't had that before, ever. We are, let me make sure, fully seated. This is the 40 round curved with 150 grain subs. I don't know if you can hear how loud those are hitting the dirt. All right, locked open. That one ran fine. So far, I can't even keep track of the malfunctions at this point. 40 round straight stick. This one took some warming up, but it seems to be working okay. The 50 round drum thus far has been flawless. Other than my only knock on the 50 round drum is just the lack of a last round bolt hold open. Yep. So we're going to call it at that. Take these things back to the studio and we'll talk about it there. Yeah, running suppressed gets a little dirty. All right, before we start talking about what happened today, I do need to thank my channel sponsors. Boise Black Rifle's been the longest running channel sponsor here at 2A Cops. They do lots of stuff behind the scenes that helps me get these videos out. Aegis Gun Care. I use all their cleaners and lubes on all my guns, including cleaning this thing before I took it out for this test. They have 2 different suppressor cleaning systems now. They have their original pressurized 2230 cleaning system, which is not probably in the price range for most average homeowners. If you're a gun store, if you're a gunsmith, if you're an agency that uses suppressors, or if you're just a guy who shoots a lot of suppressors, it's probably something you might be interested in. For the rest of us, they have their new soaking tube. $44.95. It comes with everything you need to clean your suppressor. There's several brushes in here. There's there's a bag of their solution that you mix with water. There's a rag in here. There's instructions, and there's actually a platform that you set your suppressor on. So when you go to take it out of here, you don't have to stick your hands down in the dirty solution. You can just grab this rod and lift your can out. Very good setup for $44.95. So Aegis Gun Care, if you use 2A cops over there, it won't save you 10%. It definitely won't. And last but not least is Wasson Watch Company, the watch company that knows what time it is. Wasson Watch Company is a very pro-America, pro-Second Amendment, veteran-owned U.S. company. They have 4 different models now. This is their automatic field watch. This was their original model. They have a automatic dive watch. They have 2 different versions of their 250th commemorative United States anniversary watch. One of them is an automatic and one of them is a quartz. The quartz being the least expensive way that you can get into a Wasson watch. No matter which model you pick, if you use 2A cops at checkout, you will save 10% on your order. Wasson Watch Company, the watch company that knows what time it is. All right, so let's talk about what happened out there today. Not a lot of good. The original OEM Springfield mags, they've got a version 2 out. The version 2 is running reliably. I've not heard any people having problems with them. The version 1s were problematic when the mags got dirty. They fixed that. The ProMag 30 rounder costs $3 less than the OEM Springfield mag. Don't even bother. The 40 rounder holds 10 extra rounds. Costs about $5 to $6 more than the OEM Springfield mag. You get 10 extra rounds, which is cool. I did experience some feeding issues on the Curve 30 rounder. Not a ton of them, but enough to the point where I would not trust my life with this thing. This thing is bitchin' looking. It looks like good in the gun. Sadly, it doesn't feed. Massive amounts of problems feeding with this mag. It is the same price. The 2 40 rounders are the same price. Save your money. Neither one of them are reliable. Ironically, the only ProMag, Kuna mag, that was reliable was this thing, was this 50 round drum. I've used these drums in the past. This part on the top here, when they're assembling this, they just put in whichever version gun they're gonna make. The drum itself is identical. So it's just the part that goes into the mag wall on your gun that is different from drum mag to drum mag in ProMag's inventory. So this is a new little magazine well portion. This thing worked perfect. Ironically, the 2 that I've used in the past were both Scorpion mag versions, and neither one of them would feed hardly anything. They were horrible. So I expected this thing to fail epically, and it didn't. It just chugged on through. The one downside to this thing is it is a pain in the ass to load. It needs basically 3 hands, because if you set it down like this on the table and then you go to release the pressure on the follower, the whole mag wants to spin. So if you try to hold the mag while you're doing that, then you can't actually put the round in, because the rounds don't just drop in easily. When you release the pressure, the round that's sitting there just stays there. So you have to use the round you're putting in to push that round in and then tilt it and stuff it down in there. I found on the table that I was using at the range, I was able to stuff a wrench into a slot on the table. I could push this up against the wrench, which allowed me to turn it. The wrench held this from turning. So the wrench was like this coming out of the table. I was able to turn the spring-loaded thing here. This would not move, and then I could load it. Still was not easy to load. Probably one of the most difficult mags I've ever loaded in my life. The Magpul drum mags are significantly easier to load. Okay, so what was I putting through these magazines? Mostly ball ammo, mostly 124 grain ball ammo. I put 300 rounds of STB Patriot Sport 124 grain NATO ammo through them. I put 150 rounds of CCI Blazer Brass. I put 100 rounds of Freedom Ordnance 124 grain ball. That was all 124. I threw in 10 rounds of MagTech 115 grain steel case ball. And then for the most part, that stuff, ball ammo is going to feed better than any hollow point out there. This is the Winchester Defensive Actually, it doesn't even say that on this box. I had one black box that said defensive. It's 147 grain jacketed hollow point. I have some of that here. I wanted to show you what that projectile looks like. All right, so the 147 grain jacketed hollow point from Winchester, that's it there. It's a pretty decent sized hollow point. I wouldn't carry this stuff as defensive ammo. I would still use it as training ammo, but it is a decent sized hollow point. The other thing that I ran through there was 150 grain S&B subsonics. These are kind of a square nose FMJ. Again, let me pull out the old cell phone here. So these are kind of a square-nosed FMJ. They're actually a little bit short compared to most 9mm rounds in overall length, but they didn't cause any kind of feeding issues. So those weren't an issue. The biggest malfunction causing ammo there was when I threw the hollow points in. Granted, they were already malfunctioning as it was. In terms of the gun, obviously this gun is not stock. It's got lots of stuff done to it. It does have the HB Industries short stroke and stiffer recoil spring kit that's in here. This gun has never had feeding issues with standard mags, except for when the mags were dirty and the followers were tilting. So if you want to make yourself feel better about the ProMags and say it was the recoil spring assembly and the short stroke buffer kit in here that was causing those malfunctions, you can have at it. Yes, the gun was not stock, but it shouldn't. The parts that have been added to that gun should not cause any kind of feeding issues. They have not caused any kind of feeding issues up until today when I put ProMags in. So overall, my take, save your money. I have absolutely no idea how ProMag stays in business. What I experienced here is par for the course with every ProMag I have ever purchased in my life. They may feed sometimes. Is kind of they're like, if you want malfunction training mags, buy a ProMag. I do really appreciate the fact that they tried to come out with 4 different new magazines for the Kuna. As a Kuna owner, I'm always looking for options. Magpul, if you're listening, please, for the love of God, all you got to do is change the tip of your 35 rounder that you make for the Scorpion. Change the portion where it goes into the mag well, and then get selling to us. Same thing on your drum mag. Just need to change that portion that goes into the mag well. Yeah, sad to say, ProMag lived up to their reputation. That said, I have forgot to include this in the last couple of videos. Everybody out there, please practice your ABCs. Always be carrying. Have your gun on you. If something jumps off, it does no good to have your gun at home or in the car. Carry your gun on you at all times. Practice your ABCs. Always be carrying. Stay safe, everyone.